Hello, my name is Ilona, and in this video I want to talk about making choices. I just made my Dutch video and I have no script, so to be very honest, I'm not even sure anymore what I mentioned in my Dutch video, but I'm just going to start talking, so we'll see what's going to happen in the flow. And I want to talk about making choices in my video about making changes in your life. One of the main steps is making a choice. And it's very important to make choices. And I fully understand that people there are in situations that they feel like they don't have a choice. Ultimately, even in the most extreme situations, you still have choices. Of course, they're not going to be the best choices, but I'm not talking now about extreme situations. I'm not talking about people in war zones or in other situations. I'm just talking about, what's happening now in your life. And most of us are not in that situation. In essence, we are, of course, in a war situation, but I'm talking about other situations where there's actual fighting going on and things like that. So I'm not talking about extreme situations that you will feel powerless. I'm really talking about your life and feeling powerless to take certain steps, because ultimately feeling powerless is saying you don't have a choice. Like, I don't have a choice. I'm not capable of making other choices. This is what I have. I'll have to live with this. And you are taking away your power by saying that. You really are giving away your power at that moment by saying things like, well, I don't have any choices right now. I just have to follow along. And that's really very detrimental to your feeling of being, having control in a way. Control is a bit rigid. It sounds like very rigid. But I mean, if you want to create your life, if you want to start manifesting, which we all can, we are very creative beings. We are capable of creating the life that we truly want. But we have to start making choices and start to realize that ultimately we always have a choice. I fully understand people, I've been in horrible situations as well, and I felt like I had no choice as well. And I had to learn to see that ultimately things had to do with me. It had to do with my convictions, believing that I was not good enough, believing that I was not valuable enough, believing that I didn't have control, I wouldn't be able to do anything about that. Usually it comes from your youth and maybe even former lifetimes, obviously past lifetimes. Because to me, you don't just end up somewhere. There's a choice you've made as a soul to be in the situation. So ultimately, you always make a choice where you are or where you, in what family you end up. There's a soul's choice that you make. That's why we are here in this time period at this moment in time. It's a choice we have made, even if we are not aware of it. And by living, we're making choices. So what we see in our life right now are choices we've made maybe last week or maybe a month ago or years ago. That's what we're seeing around us. And if we start to understand that everything around us is a reflection of who we are inside, then we can change things, make different choices. It actually gives back your power, your strength to change things. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm working through this process, and sometimes I'm, like I said, feeling pain, anger, because that's how I work through things. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Why? But I know that I have to push through that. I know that if I want to make different choices, that I can become, it can be very uncomfortable. I'm sure if you really want to, if you're in a certain lifestyle, a certain way of living, and you want to change that because it doesn't feel right to you anymore, then it is going to get uncomfortable. Certainly when you're dealing with other people as well. If you really want to change things in your relationship, the other person in the relationship will have to decide to grow with you or not. And then, of course, you will have to make decisions. And of course, there are sometimes, I've even noticed that in my life, then you're so fed up with something, then, you just take the steps. But usually when there are situations that's difficult to really make a choice, it is so important to get first clear. What is it you want? Be very clear with yourself so you can make a choice. And it's up to you. You can decide to stay and remain in a situation that doesn't feel right to you. That is up to you. That is a choice that you can make. But do realize then, all right, if this is where I'm choosing, then I should be happy with this. This should be enough then for me. So you can, have to find your way in that. So it's very important to realize we make choices every day, and we make choices how how we let others treat ourselves. We make choices how we portray ourselves, how we speak to ourselves, what's happening in our lives. We make those choices, and it's very important if you want to step into your power. And that's what the Great Awakening is about. It is, in a way, taking back our power, taking back our creative power. And it's very important that we work through things. If we want to change things in our lives, and I've mentioned this before, of course, in my video, things will come up. And it's very important also, something just popped in my head, which I mentioned in the Dutch video as well. What is you want to feel? Do you want to feel freedom? Do you want to feel maybe trusting or relaxed? Then try to feel that right now and see how your body will respond to that. So really imagine, feel what it is you truly are looking for. So not necessarily situations that you want, but more what is the feeling that you want to experience. And then see how your body will react. I was brought up in a very unsafe home. I just felt very emotionally unsafe. It's probably from past lifetimes. That doesn't matter. That's something I have to deal with. So feeling unsafe is something that is very the core of my being. So this fear could come up anytime. So something could trigger it. So it's very important for me to deal with that fear, dealing with that unsafety. Because I think a lot of people have that unsafe feeling because, let's face it, the dark energies have been programming us to fear things, to be afraid. You have to insure yourself. You have to rely on the government to save you or to be protected by organizations, or it's this feeling that you have to be fearful of life. You have to be fearful of what's going to happen. You have to be prepared. So a lot of people, they like that energy of fear. They like to keep us in this fight, flight, freeze stage, because that's a perfect way of manipulating people and keeping them in a lower frequency. So I do believe a lot of people carry this unsafety with them, and I know I do. I've been dealing with it for a few days now. We have the full moon in, of course, the star sign Cancer. And I saw actually somewhere that it's actually in the 16 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, astrology-wise, is the full moon. And that's exactly where my sun and my moon is in my birth chart. So I'm having a lot of fun these days. So this is really a core issue for me to deal with, feeling safe inside myself and feeling safe outside. That's also why I'm on top of things. I have this tendency of always trying to control things and being on top of things. If something happens and I'm like, what's going on here? I'm immediately on top of things and start to organize things. And that's this feeling of being unsafe. So I try to create safety. Now, if of course I would feel safe in myself fully, I would still be doing things, but it will be differently. It won't be from this fearful base or fearful, how do you say this? From this fearful place. It will be a different energy. And obviously, if I feel completely safe and relaxed inside myself, my life will be safe and relaxed, because that will be a reflection. So it's very important to see what you truly want to experience and how your body's going to react. Maybe you want to experience freedom or this feeling of being loved fully, or maybe something else. Then see how your body will respond. And that is really a way of seeing what comes up. Maybe you feel very angry or fearful, or like I don't deserve that. Well, these are the things you can start working with. That is part of the shadow side. That's part of that refrigerator or that freezer where you've put all these old things, baggage, maybe from past lifetimes, this lifetimes. It doesn't matter. These are the things you carry with you. And it is really time to open it up and to start dealing with that. And I want to talk about that as well, because especially dealing with feelings and emotions, and I just mentioned I like to control things. Well, you cannot control feelings and emotions. You have to surrender to truly feel through them. It's not a linear process. It's not like I'm with A and I have to go to B. I want to get rid of all these fear, these pain, these anger. So I'm just going to do this today from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then I'll get rid of everything and it's done. That's not how it works. Feelings, emotions, sometimes you really are ready to completely release it, and it can happen very quickly. But especially when something's being built up, so especially when there's things happened in your youth or maybe from a past lifetime and it gets triggered again in this lifetime, pain, it's if you don't understand that it's something you can heal, it really, you start creating more and more of those situations and it will just pile up. So you have this enormous, a block of fear, block of anger, block of frustration, and it just got piled up and piled up and piled up. It takes time to work through that. I have noticed sometimes I'm working through something and then I thought that I really healed it and I just continue living, other things will come up. And then suddenly it returns again, and usually it's a deeper layer. So that's how it works. It's trusting the process. It's like trusting the process outside of ourselves, but also trusting the process inside of ourselves. It takes time to heal, and you can't push through that. Trust me, I tried. It's not working. You really have to embrace the feeling of fear, embrace the anger, and it takes time, and usually you can take little steps in that, because your body is not used to doing that. So especially when you're just starting to experience your feeling and opening yourselves up for your emotion and feelings, your body can fight back. It's like, no, this is too painful. We can't handle this, because that's really what I was brought up with here. You don't look at your emotions, don't deal with your feelings, emotions. That's just a nuisance. Just put them away, put them in the refrigerator or the freezer and just leave them there. And so I noticed myself, I was very fearful of it, like it would overwhelm me, like I wouldn't be able to handle it. And if you have that feeling, maybe you'll recognize that as well, then it's very difficult to truly surrender yourself to maybe even sadness or a lot of pain and disappointment. And so we don't truly feel, we kind of stay above that feeling, like, oh, we want to get rid of it. We still try to avoid it. Really surrendering yourself is really opening yourself up and just feel. And I've noticed that it's a process. That for me, sometimes I still stay above the real feeling, and I'm kind of just feeling my way on it's almost like you're in a swimming pool and you're just dipping in your toe. And at a certain point, I'll be able to jump in and just plunge in the water. But it takes time, and certain emotions and feelings are very difficult to just open yourself up to, especially when you feel like this is going to overwhelm you, like stay away from those feelings, you'll not be able to handle it. But we can handle it. We are strong enough. It's already in our energy. It's already part of our energy, which means essentially we already survived carrying this around, so we can actually transform it as well. We are strong enough to deal with that. So it's very important in making choices to see what comes up. Why haven't you made this choice before? What is stopping you from taking good care of yourself? What will come up if you feel this feeling of freedom that you're longing for, or this feeling of safety and trusting? What happens in your body? You usually will get an immediately reaction if it doesn't fit with you. And I've noticed myself, the more I'm working through this process, and I'm still working my way through this process. There's interesting process, I have to say. I grow and I become stronger and I feel stronger. And doesn't mean that I don't have my moments. Just a couple of days ago, I was just like, oh, not again. It's surrendering. It's that mind that wants to keep that control. But if you surrender, if you open yourself up and just feel through it without trying to analyze it, without completely sinking in it, just feel through it. Essentially, in the end, it will transform. It will change. But sometimes it can take a long time. There's a lot of things happening, and sometimes you just push right through it. It's almost like you were completely ready to do it. You have to take time, listen to your body, because your system has to handle this as well. Just take your time with that, especially when you're just starting to feel and to open up for emotions. It can be very terrifying for your body, and it will resist, it will fight back, and you just have to take smaller steps. It's just like you're starting to exercise. You're not going to do a marathon right away. You will probably first start with like a 10-minute walk or a 30-minute walk, and then you gradually up your game. And that's really what you have to do with emotions and feelings as well. Some people have been more in touch with their feelings for a longer time, so then it's easier. But especially I've noticed myself, the first time I started doing this, it was terrifying for me and my system. It kind of just shut down. So I really had to start with like 5 minutes, or maybe first a minute and then 2 minutes, and then kind of work myself up. And now I can actually feel, and I'm less afraid of it. But there's still things come up that I'm like, oh, I don't really want to deal with this. But I'm dealing with it. It's a choice I've made, because I've made the choice to become as strong as possible so we can really start creating this new earth. I really want to start creating completely in control of my own energies. And I think that is so important. We can create this beautiful new earth. You can create whatever you want, but you have to start, working with your own energy. That's like I'm working with my own energy. So we can really take it away, because if we control our own energy, the dark energies won't be able to. They won't be able to manipulate us. They won't be able to use our energy, and they need our energies. So we are really taking back the source of their power, so to speak. They have power because we give them power. We take that back. We start using it to create our own lives. They won't be able to touch us, and we'll start creating whatever we truly want to create here. I'd like to leave it at this and hope to see you in another video. Bye.